On today's episode, we have best-selling authors and finishers of the Recovered on Purpose Pain to Purpose program, Brittany Priestly and Dr. Coul Hill, here to talk about their journey into recovery and what it has been like sharing their stories into their very own books. I'm Adam Vibe Gutton, and this is the Recovered on Purpose show. The black represents the darkness from which we came. The white represents the light in which we now live. And the red represents the passion it takes to live recovered on purpose. Today's episode is brought to you by Recovered on Purpose. Recovered on Purpose was founded with the vision of raising up an army of recovered addicts to tell their stories in powerful and impactful ways to free others suffering from the bondage of addiction and to tell their stories in the school system to deter the future generations from going down the path of addiction. If you want to become part of this movement or you want to be interviewed for the show, go to recoveredonpurpose.com/contact and tell me about yourself. All right, guys, I am so excited to introduce you to my good friend, Brittany Priestly. Brittany is a mother of four, a recovered alcoholic, and a best-selling author of her story, Mommy Drunkest, How Losing My Little Angels Freed Me of My Demons. Brittany, so excited to have you on.
Hi, thank you.
Awesome. So, Brittany, I want you to kind of tell the story of how we met. What was going on at that point? I know you were kind of just like scrolling through Facebook, but go ahead and tell the people like how you actually became part of this.
I was just at home on Facebook and I follow some recovery groups and I was in one of them. And I think someone had shared your post about it and all I saw was if you're in recovery and you would like to write a book, sign up. And I was like, oh, and I never click on those kind of things ever. And for some reason I was like, okay, I'll try this out. And so I answered the questions and my biggest dream has always been to write a book. So that's what led me to it the most.
Yeah. And I do thank you for bringing up those questions because that's actually something that really that floored me. When I wrote those three questions, it actually revealed a lot about the heart of addicts, the heart of alcoholics that are in recovery. Because the first question I believe was on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you to write a book? And out of everybody that filled it out, nobody answered less than 6. It was anywhere from like 6 to 10. And then the next one was on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you to learn to speak powerfully? And out of everybody that answered it, no one answered less than 8. So it was like between 8 and 10. And then the third question was on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you to help others, like younger generations, not go down the path of addiction? And out of every single person that was interviewed with those questions, not one answered less than 10. So I believe the Recovered on Purpose is onto something, and I know that was something that you're into because obviously you have 4 kids. So tell me, when we actually started that Pain to Purpose program, what was it inside of you, or what was it that made you kind of choose to take that leap and go into the Pain to Purpose program?
I was just really feeling kind of stuck in a rut at that time. It was weird. I was 4 months shy of my 3 years, and I allude to it in my book, but alcohol was being brought into my home on a regular basis, and I was really struggling a lot with thoughts of like drinking again. And I had actually I would go and grab a bottle and like smell it. It started really getting to me, and I wasn't talking about it to anybody. I was keeping it a secret, so I was falling back into those bad habits. And it was just something, and that was actually going on before you and I had even had the interview. And the interview, having that was kind of like helping me even then, like before we had it, because I kept thinking, I was like, I have this interview with this guy. And if I drink, I can't do this. I won't have 30 days. Cause it was like a week out or 2 weeks out. I was like, I won't even have 30 days sober. And for me, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to accumulate any time if I go back out. But it was something that I felt like I inwardly needed to do to save my sobriety,
Yeah.
honestly.
That's awesome. And actually, I didn't even know about that until after you published your book. I didn't even know that there was actually that kind of stuff going on. So that just goes to show, guys, when you're like all of you that are out there, if you're in recovery, you never know what just having a conversation, what just having a connection with someone and going after something. It can be as simple as, you know, having someone that you invite to go work out with you or invite to go on a hike with you. Or if you're doing things like this, you invite somebody to share their story. And Brittany, tell me, because what you actually just said was that you met me, and then did you just say 4 months later you had actually written and published your book in just 4 months? What did that look like?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really I that was an intense time, but it totally gave me um just getting back into my writing and everything, because before I really became a horrible alcoholic, I used to love to write and be creative, and I hadn't, like, the poems in my book like were from when I was in my late teens. Like, I stopped writing. I stopped doing everything that I loved. And it was like it brought back that love of creativity for me. And and it was like, I said this several times during that time, was that it was just a really in-depth, like, step work. You know what I mean? Like step 4 and 5, like writing these stories out so detailed, um, gave me such a different perspective on them. I was even able to forgive um, people who had done some things to me, and it let me see from, like, their perspective. I was like, these people were hurting too. These people had some issues too, and I wasn't, I don't know. They were a victim also. Not that I like to use that word, but it really gave me a lot of clarity on a lot that happened in my life and a lot that was going on in my life at that time too.
Yeah. And I love that you bring that up, because one of the reasons why I actually am a proponent of a recovered addict or someone in recovery writing their book is during that process, we get our story so well ingrained in us. We get so clear on what was happening, and then we're able to, like, literally speak these stories in powerful ways. We know the details. We know everything that was going on. We know that what happened before, during the story, and really what happened after the story in such a deep way that, you know, now we're going to be able to share these stories with kids. Like, that's the ultimate goal of Recovered on Purpose, is that we're learning our stories, we're learning how to speak them, and then we're learning how to tell them to the future generations to not go down this path, to not experience these things that we experienced. So Brittany, tell me about what the process was like through editing and through the publishing of it, like the excitement maybe that you felt, or other emotions that were going on during that time, and right before the launch, what was going on in your heart and in your mind?
Yeah, I was super excited, and I've always been kind of an introvert and shy, so it helped. I'm still working on it, but it's helped me to get out of my shell a little bit more, help with, confidence. And I was able to really get in touch with people I hadn't talked to in a really long time, when I was getting, like, the launch team going and, all of that stuff. So it created even more connections in my life, just having people reach out to me that I hadn't talked to in forever. And that was probably my favorite part of it.
That's awesome. And I know just before this, we were talking about how you were struggling right before we met, you were struggling with some things. So maybe even those connections were helping to continue to move forward with that. I actually just did an episode of the Recovered on Purpose show with Ryan Kennedy, and we talked about how disconnection is like the epidemic right now. Being disconnected from people, or isolation, or all that is kind of what causes a lot of the sicknesses in this world. So through that process of getting the launch team together, reconnecting with people, you were getting excited. You were building this community again, right? So, and then you also have a group that you created through this also. So tell me about that.
Yeah, my the Facebook group, Mommy Drunkest, I still have it, and I still post stuff in it. And it's just another avenue, and I used to just do live videos. I should probably do more just in there, just to get used to being comfortable in front of a camera and, speaking. And anyone's more people have joined recently, and anyone's, welcome to it. And I just feel like it's just another little community, you know what I mean? Like, we all need as much as we can get with help and community and connection. So yeah, that was fun to do.
Yeah. So how can they find that? What is the group called if they want to hop in there?
It's just Mommy Drunkest.
Awesome. Awesome. So guys, if you want to connect with her and you want to get in that group and start posting in there and stuff, go to Mommy Drunkest. So tell me a little bit about how you got this title, because it's literally called Mommy Drunkest: How Losing My Little Angels Freed Me of My Demons. What does that mean to you?
It's a play on word. It's funny because when we were in the group, when I was working on the title, the movie, and I'd always liked this movie, Mommy Dearest, was on, and it's about a narcissistic, abusive mother. And so I just decided to do Mommy Drunkest because I was a horrible drunk. And my story is basically how I got sober, or what finally made the light go on, was having my kids removed from my home. So for me, it was just kind of a play on words. And the angels are obviously my children most of the time. And my demons are just everything that I just let eat me alive.
Wow.
And I mean, literally, there's stories in there about other things too, but yeah.
Awesome. So in this process, because I know you have a whole bunch of reviews and ratings on Amazon and everything. So tell me about some of the people that have reached out to you since publishing your book, and some of the connections that you've made, or interviews that you've done. I know you did an interview with a friend of mine. So how has it been actually having this book finished, and then having this as a tool to reach out to people, or people that are able to read the book and get inspiration and stuff like that? So what has that been like, having people message you?
That's awesome. Like, that's my favorite thing about it, because so many people that I never even knew had, problems with some of the things that I've gone through. I've reached out, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I can relate. Even people who aren't addicts, you know what I mean? Just some of the things that have happened to me in my life, they're like, this has happened to me, or just my issues with unworthiness. And, because I basically, my trauma kind of manifested in so many different ways. I'm not just an alcoholic and addict. Like, I had a lot of other issues too that I've had to recover from. So them being able to relate and just being like, this is really helped. And I've had people that I don't even know say, like, your book, I'm sober now, I'm working on my sobriety. Like, it's helped me a lot. And I had posted on my Facebook that the prosecuting attorney who had dealt in all of my criminal cases, he reached out to me and was like, I just want you to know that I read your book, and, I always believed in you, and I always knew that you could, do better. Like, that wasn't really you. And he actually ordered some books for the jail there in the town that I had been in a few times, so that some ladies or men could read the book too, and hopefully get some encouragement and some, to get their lives back on track.
That's
So
so
that
awesome.
was like ultimate for me.
That's so awesome. So guys, you heard it from Brittany. She went from like struggling. She had some struggles going on, even in recovery. Because I know that there's people out there. If you're watching this and you're struggling in your recovery, reach out. There's so many things to do in your recovery that can take us out of that. Because I've struggled in my recovery with different thoughts and different feelings that I didn't want to have there, right? So guys, you heard it from Brittany. She went from struggling to being able to have her book bought by the prosecuting attorney for the jail that she used to be a resident of. So guys, right after this, quick break, we will be bringing in Dr. Coul Hill. And guys, if you want a signed copy of Brittany's book, she is actually going to give away 3 of them, personally signed to 3 people that like, share, and comment Mommy Drunkest right now. Love you guys. We'll see you after the break. All right, everyone, welcome back. I'm so excited to introduce you to Dr. Coul Hill. He's another person that went through the Recovered on Purpose, Pain to Purpose program and published his now #1 best-selling book, From Crime to Christ, and Thumbprints of God in the Life of a Criminal. I'm so excited to actually tell you guys about him, but I'm not going to do it personally. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about his story. So, Dr. Hill, tell me about where you were at, let's say like 10 years ago, before this book, before the transformation where you're actually sitting in a classroom right now wearing a tie. Where were you at that point of your life?
All right. So, honestly, I'd go back probably a little bit more. I'd go back about 12 years or so. And that's when really I was at the height of my rap career. I'd spent the better part of a decade touring the country doing rap music for a living, and had, quite a few album releases came out. Our group was putting out music with Strange Music a lot. We had a lot of things going on. Our best year at that point, in the ways that we measured it, was 2008. We were on the Billboard charts. We were doing over 80 shows a year. We were making all kinds of big moves in the underground rap industry and kind of making a wave, so to speak. But on the inside, I was dying, man. It was something that took everything that I had and everything I could, steal and hustle to make it work. And it really came to a head one day in 2008 where, honestly, I got face to face with the decision to either, hurry up and start living or finish dying. And thankfully, I decided to hurry up and start living. And, fast forward to today, yeah, I'm in the classroom. I no longer living that life, and very happy for that, and thankful for what I learned, and thankful for the experiences, and thankful for especially how now, that experience and that life that I did leave is something that other people can use to their benefit in terms of, how they can see a pathway or a blueprint out of those same activities, and find a way to see God, and that's ultimately what it is. I mean, the book, Thumbprints of God in the Life of the Criminal, from crime to Christ, really is about that. It's the work that God did in my life, because I didn't do anything special. As they say in the book, there's 1,000 reasons why I should be dead and 1,000 more why I should be in prison, but I'm not. I'm here. Very thankful for that. And it's been a huge blessing to me to be able to put out the book, to be able to share a story like that. I've shared it before, but to do it in this medium has been really great. It's been great for me. It's been great for the people that have accessed it. And it's just such a blessing to keep watching that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And something that you were talking about, you used to tour with Strange Music, and one of the differences between your story and let's say my story is I was addicted to like heroin and meth and crack, and I was shooting up and all this stuff, but you were addicted to something else in your life at that time, which is just as strong of a pull. So tell us about what it is that you were really addicted to at that time.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I was using, absolutely. I was using lots of drugs. I was drinking like an alcoholic. But that was, in the same way that addicts use, that was to numb everything. But my addiction, the crux of my addiction, Adam, was crime. I mean, I was addicted to crime. I was addicted to the rush. I was addicted to the money and the power that came with it, the notoriety, just all the evil that comes with that, being able to strike fear into people just with my presence. I mean, that's just a big part of who I was. But inside, that had me dying, I mean, it was just awful. I lived with guilt and shame every day. On top of that, because, the life that I led was directly reflected by the music and the lyrics that I wrote. And so on any given day, I didn't know if I was going to die or go to prison. I mean, that was the reality. Every day I woke up, it could have been the last. And so that's just something that I got used to, got numb to, but deteriorated on the inside until one day I finally gave up and let God get a hold of me. And that's the thing. And you bring up addiction, and it's so obvious to see when you mention being addicted to heroin and crack and things like that. And if you read the book, you'll see some of that with me as well. But the reality is that addiction and addiction mentalities are so prevalent in our society, and there's so many things that we don't even necessarily always view as bad that are just as addicting and just as harmful to us. But because they're so out in front in the open, we just see it as part of our life, and so I think what you're doing is great. And, I'm really honored to be a part of it, because opening people up to the reality of addiction and helping empower them to get better in all things, I think is just great, man. You're really doing God's work. I'm so proud of you and so happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So tell me where you were at when we actually connected, and why is it that you actually chose to do the Pain to Purpose program? What was going on at that time? And why is it that you jumped in?
Well, so I had seen you actually come across my Facebook feed probably, in that first, in those first few days when you were writing your book and posting about it. It's, you got my attention right away, and I was definitely interested in what was going on with you. And it always just kind of stuck in the back of my mind, because for years, people have been telling me, hey, you should write a book. Hey, you should write a book. Hey, you should write a book. And I think a lot of people say that to a lot of people. It's something that always stuck with me. And it's something that I always thought, well, I'm going to do that one day. And it's something that I always put off. And then you came along, and I saw your mission, and I saw that not only was it something that was being worked from the Lord, but it was also something that included a pathway and a blueprint to success, And so for me, that was a calling card of God. That was another thumbprint of God saying, hey, now's the time, step up and do it, And so I called you, we spoke, and that was really the start of it, And very, very thankful and blessed to be going through this and have done that. And I recommend to everybody, it's if you've lived a life and recovered, it's something where, like what I get out of it is twofold, really. First of all, the process of writing the book, even if no one else ever reads it, is so therapeutic. We're talking about, like with my book, not any of it was fresh, Adam, like, as you well know, because you walked me through the steps. Like, a lot of this stuff was 12, 15, some of it even almost 20 years old. I'm living in a completely different life from that, but I still have the scars. I still have those pieces within me. And so being able to kind of dredge through it again and thread together a purpose in which something that was intended for evil is now used for God's glory, man, the power that put within me of healing that I didn't even know I needed in some places has been huge. So that's the number one benefit I get. And then the second thing that I get is, and it's worth more than any dollar I could ever get from a book sale, is when I get feedback from people, be it phone calls, text messages, Facebook messengers, emails, whatever, saying how much a certain part of the book impacted them. And for some, it's the addict element. For others, it's the crime. For others, it's the alcoholic parent. For others, it's being abandoned or abandoning others. And there's so many different pieces and places for anyone to connect in this book that that's been a huge blessing to me, just to see the value in it for other people. In fact, one of the things that I have said is that part right there, for me, makes having lived it worth it, because as bad as I was, one of the things that I love hearing the most is when someone tells me, hey, if Kill a C can do it, so can I. And I love that because I know in my heart of hearts and in the bottom of my soul that the only reason that I'm still alive, the only reason that I'm here is for that very purpose, to show that is possible, you know. And again, like I said, I don't take the credit, as neither do you. I mean, that's something that God did. I just let him work, you know.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And something that you just touched on is that people that have reached out to you that have been impacted by your story, that have been impacted by your book, they come from all different walks of life. And that's what I find is so beautiful about this medium, this about writing your book and getting your book out, because this is something that anybody can find. This is something where, like, it can be a parent that's struggling with a son that has addiction issues, that she doesn't know what to do, and she finds hope in your book. It can come from somebody that has nothing to do with addiction, but they find the love of Christ in your book, in your testimony. And that's why I love the avenue of writing this book. And you also alluded to something that I was going to touch on, that Brittany actually talked about in the beginning of the show, was the process of writing it was therapeutic for you. And guys, if you ever want to feel what it feels like just to get out your story, just write it yourself. Even if you choose never to publish it, even if you choose never to share it, writing the story, writing the details, and the thing is, when you finish writing it, you're going to want to share it. So Coul, what is it that was going on through that process of writing? Because I remember talking to you, because you were sending me every time you finish the story, hey bro, just finish this one, just finish this one, just finish this one. So what was it like when you were writing it? What do you mean that it was therapeutic for you?
Well, so, you know, it was something that took me longer than we anticipated when I set out. And there was roadblocks that I hit, because there was places in the writing and things in the book that, like, you know, I don't talk about, you know, and some of it I absolutely, actually, you know, most of it I'd say I am ashamed of, you know, but I've moved on, you know what I mean? I don't wallow in the shame, but you know, there was definitely a blocking from the enemy on many levels in that book, because, you know, there's so many things that were kept dark, kept hidden, because that was who I was. You know, I lived a double life. You know, I lied about everything to everyone, in order to keep the facade going, you know, and it's exhausting, and, you know, it breeds self-hate among other things.
Yeah.
And so going back through that was one of those things where, you know, if it was, you know, a particular chapter, I would, you know, find every reason in the world not to touch it for a couple of weeks, you know, and then I'd get to the point where I'm like, gosh, you know, I'm taking a long time to finish this book. I need to just, you know, dig down and do it. And I'd get to the end of that chapter and I'd read it and I'd be like, oh man, God really did something there in me and in this story in such a way that, like, somebody who's going through that could use this as a way out. And so my book has 17 chapters, and really, and they exist on a spectrum, as you're well aware of the thematic units that we have there. But in each one of those chapters, there's components where somebody could be anywhere on that spectrum and go and see themselves, you know? And so that's what I started to realize as I got into it. It is something where, you know, because it is work that will honor God and help people break free from, you know, demonic strongholds and addiction, that there's going to be things that try to stop you from completing it, because, you know, that's the sort of thing. And I mean, you talk about getting vulnerable. I mean, I get vulnerable. I'm a public school teacher. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a lot, you know, this semester I have 96 different students, you know what I mean? And for me, that's really vulnerable to be sitting there talking about the last time that I smoked crack, to be talking about, you know, getting beat down, to be, you know, talking about, you know, running drugs for a living and all of the sexual things and all of that. Like, you know, that's very vulnerable. But that's what God saved me for.
Amen.
You know? And so that's what I'm thankful for, you know, is that I'm able to do that and turn that into a positive. In some ways, you know, like, I mean, I'll be real honest with you, Adam, like, I'm covered in tattoos that are thumbprints of my youth, who I used to be. And people hear me say this a lot. If I could wash them off, I would, swear to God. If I could, in fact, about 2 months ago, I went and met with a skin doctor who does tattoo laser removal. And I was seeing about the possibility of taking everything off my body. And he quoted me $54,000. And I'm like, dang. Because for me, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to shed the skin. Yes, people look at me differently, as you are well aware with you as well. It's just not who I am anymore, you know? But at the same time, I look back and I go, you know, this is something that draws a certain group towards me. And even though it's not representative of where I'm at, it allows me the ability to speak up. I mean, you think about it, how many school teachers do you know? How many people in public high school do you know that can have a conversation about the last time they smoked crack, or their relationship, you know, sexual promiscuity type things, or any of that with someone in such a way that is, you know, life building, positive and uplifting and encouraging, and makes them think about choices, you know? And it's not something that I do every day. It's not something that happens during class time typically. It's usually one-on-one, like somebody has a question, or somebody will see one of my old music videos and they'll bring it up. Or sometimes we'll just stumble onto the topic, you know? And, you know, the authenticity of the fact that I'm real about it, and the fact that they know that I've lived that because of, you know, what I'm coming from, makes it something where, you know, the kids that I am able to impact have that as something that they can look back on, you know, and that they can call upon as, hey, you know, maybe that's something that we should learn from him. So, you know, it's useful.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And guys, obviously, Coul is in or Dr. Hill is in a perfect position right now to fulfill on the mission of Recovered on Purpose. He's literally in a classroom with the future generation every single day. And guys, if you want a free signed copy of From Crime to Christ, go ahead and share this video, like this video, and comment Crime to Christ. And Coul is actually going to be giving away 3 signed copies, and he's graciously offered that to you guys. And guys, again, we just want to thank you for being here on this episode. And we are encouraging you, if you're out there and you're in recovery, it's so important that you get your story out. And this avenue is a really, really proven and simple method to doing just that. So guys, and watch out for an episode coming up. I am actually just deciding this on air with you right now. I'm actually going to do an episode of the Recovered on Purpose show showing you exactly how to go to mapping out your entire story and get to the point of being able to write your story of recovery, all the way through into a book. And I'm going to make it really, really simple on you. So watch out for that episode. Love you guys, and we will see you soon. Thanks so much for being here, Coul.
The black represents the darkness from which we came. The white represents the light in which we now live. And the red represents the passion it takes to live recovered on purpose.